His blue eyes made him famous. His movies made him a legend. But at home, Paul Newman was a totally different man. Now, his daughter is telling the truth about what really happened behind closed doors. The drinking that almost destroyed their family, the guilt he carried after his son's overdose, and the shocking confession he made on his deathbed. This story will change everything you thought you knew. Paul Newman was born on January 26, 1925, in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. His family background was a mix of cultures and traditions. His father, Arthur Newman, was Jewish, the son of Hungarian and Polish immigrants. His mother, Teresa, was of Slovak descent. His parents owned a successful sporting goods store in Shaker Heights, an affluent suburb of Cleveland. The family was financially secure, and Paul had a comfortable upbringing. But, despite this, he faced discrimination. Shaker Heights was mostly Christian, and anti-Semitism was common at the time. In high school, Paul was an athlete and a good student, but he was denied membership in a fraternity because of his father's Jewish background. It was a moment that stayed with him and likely influenced his later views on equality and justice. At the same time, his childhood was filled with creativity. At just 7 years old, he performed in a school play, Robin Hood. That small role sparked something in him. He later joined the Cleveland Playhouse's children's theater program, where he acted in plays like St. George and the Dragon. He didn't see acting as a career yet, but it was something he enjoyed. In 1943, after graduating from Shaker Heights High School, he enrolled at Kenyon College with plans to study economics. But his studies were interrupted by World War II. That same year, just before turning 18, he enlisted in the U.S. Navy, hoping to become a pilot. During training, doctors discovered he was colorblind. That meant he couldn't fly, so he was reassigned as a radioman and rear gunner for torpedo bombers. In 1945, he was stationed in Hawaii, preparing for combat missions. His unit was assigned to the USS Bunker Hill, an aircraft carrier involved in the Battle of Okinawa. But just before deployment, his pilot developed an ear infection. That small medical issue kept their crew grounded. Days later, the Bunker Hill was attacked by kamikaze pilots. Hundreds of sailors died, including many from Paul's unit. If not for that ear infection, he likely would have been among them. He completed his service and received medals, including the American Area Campaign Medal and the World War II Victory Medal. But more importantly, he left the Navy with a new perspective. That near-death experience made him see life differently. He had been given a second chance, and he wasn't going to waste it. After the war, he returned to Kenyon College. His interest in economics faded. At Kenyon, he joined the drama club and performed in plays like The Front Page, Charlie's Aunt, and The Taming of the Shrew. His role in Charlie's Aunt stood out. He played a man dressed as a woman, bringing much-needed laughter to the campus after a devastating fire. He also wrote and directed a satirical student musical that poked fun at campus life, showing a sharp sense of humor and a natural instinct for storytelling. Even though he struggled in school, theater gave him purpose. Looking back, his expulsion from Ohio University wasn't the end of the road. It pushed him toward something better. After graduating in 1949, Newman's life took another turn. In 1950, his father passed away, leaving him in charge of the family business, the Newman Stern Sporting Goods Store in Cleveland. The store had been around since 1915 and was one of the biggest in the city. But Newman had no passion for it. He spent 18 months running it, feeling trapped in a life he didn't want. Later, he admitted he was running away from that world rather than embracing it. In 1951, he made a bold decision. He left Cleveland and enrolled at the Yale School of Drama. At first, he planned to study directing because He still didn't believe he had what it took to be an actor. But after a year at Yale, he took another leap and moved to New York City to train under Lee Strasberg at the famous Actors Studio. There, he learned method acting techniques that would shape his performances for the rest of his career. His first big break came in 1953 when he landed a role in Picnic, a Broadway play written by William Inge. He wanted the lead role of Hal Carter, but director Joshua Logan thought he wasn't right for it. Instead, Newman was cast as Alan Seymour, a supporting character. It wasn't the part he had hoped for, but Picnic was a major success, running for 4 with quiet intensity, showing pain beneath his cool exterior. Audiences connected with his performance, and critics praised his ability to bring depth to the role. He earned his first Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, proving once again that he was more than just a handsome face. The film was a massive success, receiving 6 Academy Award nominations. Though it did not win any, it cemented Newman's status as one of Hollywood's top stars. The decision to film in color also had an unexpected effect. It highlighted his striking blue eyes, turning them into one of his most talked-about features. From that moment on, his look became as legendary as his acting. By the early 1960s, Newman was at the top of his game. In 1961, he starred in The Hustler, playing Fast Eddie Felson, a small-time pool hustler with big ambitions. The film was stylish, intense, and full of moral dilemmas. Newman brought arrogance and vulnerability to the character, creating one of the most memorable anti-heroes in cinema. The film received 9 Academy Award nominations, including 1 for Newman. Then came HUD in 1963. In this Western drama, Newman played Hud Bannon, a selfish rancher at odds with his father. Unlike traditional Western heroes, Hud was reckless and morally flawed, making him a new kind of character for Hollywood. The film won 3 Academy Awards and earned Newman another Best Actor nomination. In 1967, he delivered another unforgettable performance in Cool Hand Luke. He played Luke Jackson, a rebellious prisoner who refuses to be broken by the system. His defiance made him a symbol of resistance, and his performance turned the film into a cultural landmark. One line from the movie became legendary: "What we've got here is failure to communicate." The quote came from Strother Martin's character, but it was forever linked to Newman. He received another Academy Award nomination, adding to his growing legacy. Through all of this, people could not stop talking about his blue eyes. They became as famous as his movies, though Newman never let his looks define him. He once joked that his tombstone should read, "Here lies Paul Newman, who died a failure because his eyes turned brown." But by then, he had already built a career that went far beyond his appearance. Paul Newman met Joanne Woodward in 1953, when they were both understudies in the Broadway play Picnic. At the time, he was married to Jackie Witt and had 3 children. Woodward was dating well-known figures like Gore Vidal and Marlon Brando. Their connection was immediate, but remained platonic at first. Newman later admitted he was drawn to her right away. She was modern and independent, while he was more conservative. That contrast made her even more fascinating to him. Their relationship took a turn in 1957 when they reunited to co-star in The Long Hot Summer. By then, Newman's marriage was falling apart. His bond with Woodward grew stronger, and soon they couldn't ignore what was happening between them. In 1958, after finalizing his divorce, Newman married Woodward in a Las Vegas ceremony. They honeymooned in England before returning to start their life together. Despite the excitement of their new marriage, Newman felt guilt over how he handled his divorce. He later admitted he didn't explain it well to his children. Still, his love for Woodward was overwhelming. He once said she gave birth to a sexual creature within him. That intensity shaped their marriage for the next 50 years. Being together for 5 decades was no small feat, especially in Hollywood. Their love was deep, but their marriage was not without struggles. Newman once made a comment about his commitment to Woodward that became famous. He said, "I have steak at home. Why should I go out for hamburger?" It was meant to express his loyalty, but it also hinted at the temptations and challenges they faced. One of those challenges was his battle with alcoholism. Another was the tragic loss of his son Scott in 1978. Scott died of a drug overdose, and the grief took a toll on the family. Their daughter Melissa later said her parents fought hard to stay together, even during the most difficult times. To escape Hollywood's pressures, Newman and Woodward moved to Connecticut. They wanted a quieter life for their 3 daughters. Newman often praised Woodward, calling her the reason he stayed grounded. While they had their own careers, they always supported each other. That balance became one of the strongest parts of their relationship. Their professional lives often overlapped. They worked together on 16 films, starting with The Long, Hot Summer in 1958, Dangers of Media and the Power of False Information. Newman played Gallagher as a man struggling to clear his name, bringing a quiet intensity to the role. His performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Then came the verdict in 1982. Newman played Frank Galvin, a washed-up lawyer desperate for redemption. Galvin takes on a medical malpractice case, and for the first time in years, he has a chance to prove himself. Newman made every moment of his struggle feel real. He showed Galvin's despair, his determination, and his slow return to self-respect. The film earned 5 Academy Award nominations, including another for Newman. He didn't win, but his performance remains one of the most powerful in his career. For years, Newman had been nominated for Oscars, but had never won. He had been nominated 7 times without a victory. In 1986, the Academy gave him an honorary Oscar for his lifetime achievements, almost as if they assumed he'd never win. But the very next year, he finally did. In The Color of Money, 1986, he reprised his role as Fast Eddie Felson from The Hustler, 1961. 25 years had passed since he first played the character, and Newman made sure Eddie had changed. He was older now, wiser, but still hungry for one last shot at greatness. He took a young pool player, played by Tom Cruise, under his wing, but this wasn't just a story about mentorship. It was about pride, ambition, and what it means to grow old in a world that never stops moving. Newman won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1987. It was a long overdue victory, not just for this role, but for everything he had given to cinema. Even as he got older, Newman never lost his touch. In Nobody's Fool, 1994, he played Sully Sullivan, a cranky but lovable handyman in a small town. Sully was a man full of regrets, but Newman gave him humor and warmth, making him one of the most relatable characters of his career. He was 69 years old, but he was still delivering some of his best work. The performance earned him yet another Academy Award nomination. His final live-action role came in Road to Perdition, 2002. This time he played John Rooney, an Irish mob boss caught between loyalty and family. His relationship with his surrogate son, played by Tom Hanks, was the heart of the film. Rooney wasn't a traditional villain. He was a man torn between love and duty. Newman played him with quiet authority, making every word feel heavy with meaning. He was 77 years old when he earned his last Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. It was a fitting farewell to a career that had lasted more than 5 decades. Paul Newman was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but his life was far from perfect. Behind his success, He battled self-doubt, struggled as a father, and fought an ongoing war with alcohol. His memoir, The Extraordinary Life of an Ordinary Man, revealed a side of him that few people knew. Even those closest to him were shocked by what he had kept inside for so many years. Despite being a legend, Newman never believed he was truly talented. He felt like an imposter, convinced that his looks had given him opportunities he didn't earn. He described himself as anxious and full of doubt, always afraid that people would realize he wasn't as good as they thought. Even after starring in The Hustler in 1961 and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969, he still couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't belong. His childhood had planted these insecurities deep inside him. His mother treated him more like a trophy than a son, and his father, an alcoholic, left him with wounds that never fully healed. His second wife, Joanne Woodward, helped him find some confidence. She saw something in him that he couldn't see in himself. She encouraged him to embrace his reputation as a sex symbol, but even that wasn't enough to silence his doubts. He constantly wondered whether people admired him for his talent or just for his face. In his memoir, he made it clear that he wanted to tear down the perfect image people had built around him. He wanted the world to know who he really was. His struggles weren't just personal. As a father, he felt like he had failed. He had 6 children, but admitted that he was often impatient, inconsistent, and absent. The weight of this failure hit him hardest in 1978, when his son Scott died of a drug overdose at just 28. Newman carried deep guilt over Scott's struggles. He wondered if his own success had made life harder for his son, if Scott had felt pressured to live up to an 700 horsepower, but the race was brutal. Torrential rain turned the track into a slick battlefield. Many teams struggled to keep up, but Newman's team pushed through. They completed 299 laps, finishing second overall and first in their class. It was a remarkable achievement, especially for someone who started racing so late in life. His performance turned heads in the motorsport world. He had officially proven himself on the biggest stage. Newman wasn't just a great driver, he also had an eye for building a winning team. In 1983, he partnered with Carl Haas to create Newman Haas Racing. It quickly became one of the most dominant teams in IndyCar history. Their first season was a breakthrough. Mario Andretti won the 1984 kart championship, proving that the team was a serious contender. In 1993, they made history again by signing reigning Formula One champion Nigel Mansell. Mansell went on to win the IndyCar championship that same year, something no other driver had ever done in his rookie season. Over nearly 3 decades, Newman Haas Racing won 108 races and claimed 8 championships. Even as his racing career took off, Newman never left acting behind. In 2006, he took on his final major film role, voicing Doc Hudson in Pixar's Cars. The character, a retired race car with a legendary past, was a perfect fit. The 1951 Hudson Hornet that inspired Doc was known for its dominance in early NASCAR, and the role reflected Newman's own history in racing. He loved working on the project, not just because of the racing connection, but because of Pixar's storytelling. The film became one of the biggest hits of the year, earning $462 million worldwide. Newman retired from acting in 2007, but his voice returned in Cars 3, 2017, through archival recordings. By that time, his health was fading. He spoke openly about aging, admitting, "You start to lose your memory, you start to lose your confidence, you start to lose your invention." But he never lost his passion. Paul Newman was more than a Hollywood star. He was a man who carried both triumph and loss, turning his struggles into something greater. He passed away on September 26, 2008, at the age of 83. Lung cancer took his life, but in his final moments, he was at home in Westport, Connecticut, with his wife, Joanne Woodward, holding him as he took his last breath. His name is forever linked to classic films like Cool Hand Luke and The Hustler, but his true legacy reached beyond the screen. Unlike many actors, he never chased fame. He valued family and purpose over the spotlight. His marriage to Joanne Woodward lasted 50 years, a rare love story in Hollywood. Together, they raised 3 daughters, Nell, Melissa, and Claire. Newman also had 3 children from his first marriage to Jacqueline Witt. His life was not without pain. In 1978, his son Scott died of a drug overdose. The loss shattered him. He blamed himself, wondering if he could have done more. But instead of drowning in grief, he turned his sorrow into action. He created the Scott Newman Center, an organization dedicated to helping others fight substance abuse. He rarely spoke about his pain, but his actions showed how deeply he cared. By 2007, Newman retired from acting. His health was failing, but he didn't want sympathy. When rumors spread about his illness, he dismissed them with humor, saying he was only being treated for athlete's foot and hair loss. Even as his body weakened, his spirit remained strong. His daughters have shared pieces of who he really was. Melissa, one of his daughters, wrote in his memoir about how he struggled with self-worth. His childhood shaped him in ways he rarely talked about. His father was distant and demanding. His mother smothered him with affection to the point of making him uncomfortable. These early wounds left a mark, but Newman found a way to move forward. Clea, another of his daughters, says his true happiness came from helping others. She now works with Serious Fun Children's Network, a global community of camps for children with serious illnesses. She often feels her father's presence when she visits, knowing that his work still changes lives. One of his greatest achievements was Newman's Own, the food company he co-founded in 1982 with author A.E. Hotchner. It all started with a simple Christmas gift. Newman made homemade salad dressing and gave bottles to his friends. The response was so enthusiastic that he decided to sell it. He and Hotchner put up $20,000